Hello, 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 and welcome to another Beehive Jumpstart session. Thank you so much for being here. It looks like we have one person in the room right now. Starting a couple minutes late, I apologize. I was jumping from another meeting. Given that we have this one person here, we might make this a little bit more of like an intimate setting. If you want to jump in the chat, who is this that I'm speaking to here? Who's in the chat with us right now? Let's see. We got two people now. We got one person on YouTube, one person on the recording. Let me know in the chat where you're calling in from. And unless we get a couple more people, we can make this a little bit more tactical. I can answer some of the questions that you may have yourself. We certainly have the time we can go through the kind of full setup that we normally do. But we have a couple of those videos on YouTube. If you wanted to use the session, we can go very, very specific on what your needs are. Oh, wait, now we go. We got up to 10. See, this is Riverside. This is the tool we use for this. Not complaining because they do us really well, but it's been taking a few minutes for those visitor accounts to pop up. It looks like we're at 12 now, so this will be great for making sure that we go through everything. But yeah, if you guys can drop in the chat where you're calling in from, I'm going to set up the workspace for me to go through the setup flow for Beehive, and we'll be able to get rolling in just a minute. If you are not sure, on the sidebar, there's a button for chat, and we can go from there. I don't know, Tony, if you're talking, but I can't hear you at all. Tony's our producer. He's our eyes in the sky. He might be talking to me right now. No one knows. I'm not getting your audio at all. Trying to figure out why. Yeah, my audio is responding in. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Calling in from the suburbs of Chicago, Slovakia. We got Jan from Slovakia. That's really cool. I don't think we've had people come in from Slovakia before. That's exciting. We got the burbs of Chicago. We got Brian from Las Vegas. Were you following the World Series or the World Poker Tournament, World Poker Tour Championship yesterday? We were watching that over here. We got one of our team members. His brother is in the championship. I think he might not have made day 4, but we were rooting for him. Cool. Well, excited to see everybody from around the world. I'm incredibly blessed to be here with you guys today to cover some of the basics of Beehive. First of all, I want to extend a warm welcome to everybody who may have just joined the platform. Usually this meeting is for folks who've recently joined the platform and are kind of feeling things out. And so I'm very, very proud to be one of the first to welcome you to Beehive. I know you guys probably may have gotten messaging from me. I'm in a lot of the emails. You might have seen stuff from our CEO, Tyler. But if I'm the first person you guys actually get to interact with live, then, I'm very blessed to be able to do that and be here with you guys. Just imported your list from MailChimp. Amazing. You're going to love it. Much better platform than MailChimp in a bunch of ways. Cool. Real quick, as we get started, I just want to hear also in the chat. So now we've seen where people are from. What are some of your goals with Beehive? Who's here? Are you launching newsletters? Are you, starting courses? Do you have a course? Are you coaching? Do you have a blog? Are you a blogger? Are you affiliate marketing? What is your goal here? So we're a newsletter platform, so newsletters are pretty typical, but as we have made the platform more powerful, we sometimes see some other use cases. So we got some newsletter, launching newsletter on health. Amazing. And how many people are launching versus like moving their list from somewhere else? And how many subscribers do you guys have? Perfect, John. That's great. Building an audience. I love that. Brand new. Cool. Just starting out. New to the newsletter. Cool. Well, amazing. That sounds great. 1,300 from MailChimp. So you've been around for a little bit. Cool. Amazing. Well, I'm super excited to get started here. We're going to jump into the platform. I'm going to give you a little rundown of kind of how we go through things. So this is meant to be kind of a very interactive, very kind of workshop-y type of call. So we're going to be really kind of in the weeds. We're going to be in the editor. I'm going to be going through all of the different features and tools that we offer to make your newsletters super engaging, super powerful, showcasing a lot of the capabilities that make Beehive so powerful and basically why people love to use Beehive. This will be especially helpful if you're brand new, like many of you are, if you're moving from MailChimp. There's a bunch of capabilities that we have that are not available on MailChimp, so that'll be informative. And then we can also talk about some of the strategies that you may want to employ to leverage the newsletter to grow for the purposes that were listed there. So Jan, using it to reach more people with your SaaS app, for example, very, very powerful strategy. Content marketing focus can be really, really great. Before we get started, I want to introduce myself. My name is EJ White. I'm the first employee over here at Beehive. I also lead our growth and marketing. I've been here since virtually day one. I joined the company about 3 months after the product was released to the market. So the only features we had were a very, very basic content editor and our referral program. And so I've been, been through it. I've seen the ups and the downs. We've been growing extremely quickly up and to the right, adding features every 2 weeks over the past 3+ years. And so the platform has evolved to be something really, really powerful. We serve, over, I think it's like recently 40,000 active newsletters. We've reached more than, 500,000 people in total in terms of, people who have, launched a newsletter on beehiiv. Obviously, it's an endeavor that requires sustained effort. And so it's not for the faint of heart. But yeah, really excited to have been part of this story to build such a powerful, compelling product that's helping so many people. So as we go through this, I'm going to start sharing my screen. I'm going to be working through and working from a publication that I created, along the way that is called Vacation Voyeur. And it's one of the ones that I've operated, I've run ads with. I've really put all through its paces, started a premium subscription and really can walk through, everything we want to cover today through this newsletter. I also want to start out by saying that, covering the agenda roughly, we're going to start out, I'm going to show you kind of what all of these features look like and how they work and basically kind of what the end state, might be and can be. And then I'm going to go through the editor and go step by step. We're going to look at the editor. We're going to look at the different settings that you're going to configure as you get ready to send. We're then going to look at the publication settings so that when you're setting up the foundation for the newsletter, the name, the sender ID, any custom domains, all of that, will demystify all of that stuff. And then once we've kind of covered the kind of core foundational things, we'll do a quick overview of all of the different features from our audience features, automation, segments, subscriber views, down to growth features, and then finishing with our monetization features that are behind the paywall and accessible once you upgrade. If you haven't already, I highly recommend that you start your 30-day trial that we offer when you sign up for an account. So if you did that when you signed up, you're fine, you're good to go. If you haven't done that yet, if you're still in the launch plan, I highly recommend clicking the upgrade button. It's no credit card required, no payment required. You can just click it and it'll automatically unlock all of the different features that we're going to cover today. As I said, it's going to unlock all of them except for some of the monetization features. We keep those behind the paywall so that there's no issue with funds getting locked behind a feature that you may lose access to at the end of the trial. That's not fun for anyone. And so I'll kind of give you a peek behind the curtain if that's interesting. What I'm not going to go super in depth in today is going to be the website builder itself. We're about to launch a very, very powerful competitive offering for building your website from scratch. So we acquired a company in the spring or in the beginning of the year called TypeDream. And the team behind TypeDream has been hard at work rebuilding what they initially built as a standalone product within beehiiv. And so they took everything that they wish they had done from the beginning, kind of having built a very powerful tool. You obviously learn lessons along the way. They took those features and those kind of learnings and have rebuilt that product inside of beehiiv. And so, if you're thinking about hosting a site on WordPress or Wix or Card or Webflow or Squarespace, essentially in January when we launch this, we'll have a product that is fully capable of competing against any of those, completely flexible, full site builder. It's a very exciting opportunity, in fact, because it will, in a lot of ways, allow people, even if they don't want to launch a newsletter, they could just launch a website and then be able to go through that. So very excited for what that's to come. But that is to say, I'm not going to kind of go super in depth into that part of the platform because that's going to be completely changing in terms of the user experience and user interface. With that said, we do have some videos on our YouTube channel along with all the other tutorials that can cover all of those different features. I will be talking through some of the settings that exist on the website side, obviously, because we can't show you kind of how to go through the entire process without covering some of the important settings that happen on the website. With that, I'm going to jump right into kind of showing you what we're going to be going through today. So if I click on that little button in the corner, the little one that looks like a globe. Yes, Steve. So if you're on other sites, you can definitely use beehiiv to integrate. Lots of users use beehiiv fully as a kind of a headless newsletter platform. So they're sending their newsletters fully through beehiiv. and just using the infrastructure to send while hosting on a fully custom front end. Our API is very powerful and can integrate across any of those tools. So if you wanted to, for example, pull that content from beehiiv and host it elsewhere, you certainly can. So just jumping in, this is what kind of roughly what one of the layouts of the current beehiiv web experience looks like. This is just the default. I haven't changed it to any of like the other layouts. We have 3 different layouts. This one is just the one I went with. You can see we have some, the header with the title, subtitle, email collection, some of the social links. We have our featured posts. So when you publish a post, you can set it to featured. We have some content tags that are organizing the structure of our content. So if I click any of these, it's going to filter this list down to just show the specific content tagged with each of these content tags. And then this is the entire archive. So I have 5 posts that I've published. And then we have certainly the footer. From here, if I click the take a peek button, this is the subscribe button. It's going to take me to the subscribe page. So if you're just starting out and you have no posts published, if you go to, website.beehiiv.com, whatever your custom website is, it's going to automatically redirect to the subscribe page so that we don't show this like empty state of a website, which would only be this top part of the site and then an archive with no posts. So that's a question we get a lot. Hey, why is this automatically redirecting? If you haven't published a post to the web yet, it's always going to redirect here. It's not going to show you the let me read first. It's just going to let you put the email in. So this is the subscribe page. Down here, I have a couple more pages. So if I go in here and I subscribe, we'll go through this process real quick because we'll be building this as we go through So I enter my email. I'm immediately shown this recommendation and boosts screen. So this lives at your website.com, either /subscribe and this recommendations slug, or if you just kind of cut this part out completely and it's just your website.com /recommendations, you can access it directly. But this is going to show you all of the different newsletters that I'm recommending. And so there's some sponsored ones here that if somebody was to subscribe and then subscribe to these recommended newsletters, I'm going to get paid a referral fee for each subscriber that subscribes to these other newsletters. And then I have some other newsletters that I am organically recommending that have no compensation associated with them. It's just newsletters that I like, that I want to promote, and I think can provide value to my subscribers. So by clicking continue, I'm not going to check any of these, but if I wanted to subscribe to all, I could do that. If I could select, one, I can select that. By checking that box as a new subscriber, that subscriber will be subscribed to both your newsletter and the existing one. They're already subscribed to mine, but then if they check the box, they'll be subscribed to the second one. By hitting continue, I'm going to be redirected. I have this set up to then show the users a welcome survey. So this is really useful for collecting information for personalization, such as first name, or any other type of data you might want to use to personalize your emails. Next, for advertising purposes, I ask for their gender so I can see and show advertisers, okay, 45% of my audience is male, 55% is female, or whatnot. Lastly, I ask them what their dream vacation destination is so that I can better form my content and gives me some ideas for future places that I should write about with my content. So once the user has entered that, if they choose, they don't have to fill out any of these. I've already gone through this, so my data is there. I think it actually might make me fill out name. I have that required, but we'll do EJ just to see. And then when I hit continue, it's going to redirect me to this upgrade screen. So this lives at the upgrade slug. I have a premium subscription associated with this newsletter. And so this just gives users the opportunity to upgrade to the ad-free reading experience. A couple of features of that paid plan. I have like an audio version of the newsletter. I also have the ad-free reading experience that I offer. There's a slight discount for a yearly version. And I have this set up so that like if they do subscribe to the yearly version, they get a 7-day free trial to kind of try before they get charged. In this case, I'm just going to continue as a free user. We have the ability, if you run multiple newsletters, to kind of co-reg or kind of cross-pollinate your other newsletters here. This is slightly different than the recommendations feature in that this is only newsletters that you operate within your own account. But I have this other men's fashion newsletter that I produce. And so I present that as an option for users to also subscribe to. But maybe later to skip that, and it's going to redirect me back to the home screen. So you've seen this like kind of very robust user experience for my subscribers. When they come in, they view the content. When they hit subscribe, they're going to be put through that flow that allows me to collect information, upsell some of them, cross-pollinate my other newsletters, and ultimately kind of provide this very responsive, kind of active, participatory onboarding for these new subscribers. Once they sign up, there's a you can log in, and so in this case, I will believe I have set up the login with password for this. We'll see. I may have not. So we have two ways for users to log in. They can log in with a magic link, which means we're just going to send them their password. But the other way is through the traditional like login with password. And so I'm not sure I've actually set this up with a thing. So we'll just sign up with a magic link. I will go over in my email and find that magic link. And the goal here is to show you guys what it looks like when a user accesses, like logs in and accesses their different, settings and whatnot. So if I go here to vacation player, log in for access, we'll get access. There we go. Oh, that's an expired link. It's one of the old ones. Okay, if this doesn't, I don't want to search for this crazy. Try one more thing, otherwise we'll move right along. I can show you guys a little bit later. Okay. Yeah, my inbox is a mess. I have too many unopened messages. Yeah, so this template that I'm looking at, so there's a couple questions. One, yes, you guys were just looking at my login screen while I have a bunch of filters set up because I'm subscribed to a million and one newsletters, and so I'm trying to see if I can quickly find the login link. I'm not, so I'm going to skip that step. But question is how to make the site look like this. So this is our basic, this is 100% like our basic, just out of the box template. This is the one that's going to be deployed by default. And all I've done is gone into the newsletter settings and added some simple styling around like background color, button colors, and whatnot. But this is literally this is just the out of the box normal default template that's just been styled a little bit. So as to say, even though we're rebuilding this like website builder, there's a whole lot you can do to really make the newsletter, the existing options look, pretty bespoke. But we have a tight agenda, so I'm just going to keep moving along. I think maybe there'll be an opportunity for me to log in anew later on. My inbox is just a little bit messy right now for this call. So going back to the dashboard, we're going to start off in the posts section. And I'm going to basically open up a existing post to show what that looks like. And as you can see, I have a bunch that usually get created during these demos. So we'll clean up this real quick and then move right along. Some protections built in to make sure that you don't accidentally lose stuff. But if we come into this wildlife safari newsletter, I can come in here and edit it, and it'll show us essentially what we have. We're going to get this warning. This is just specific to me because I have some test stuff set up with our ad network that's airing, but you will not get that message. Once you log in, you'll see a screen that looks very similar to this. It'll be a blank state. So you won't have a cover image set. You won't have any author set, or you might have the default author set. You won't have a title set and so forth. But, if we view this on the web, we'll walk through it. So we have the template, thumbnail image, title, we deploy these, you can check a button to turn these on, social media links, thumbnail image. I have this like ad that I've created from Expedia just to make it look like I'm sponsored by Expedia, just regular, content in terms of body, paragraph. We have this widget that I've created that is only visible to anonymous and free users. It's hidden from paid users, so it doesn't have an upgrade call to action. So this is a way that I use within the post to upgrade users to a premium version. We have headers that are bold and look a little bit different than the regular body text, images, columns. Again, we're using sections here to call out specific stuff. So in this case, I have an ad, for Expedia. This link goes to Expedia, and then I have the call to action. If you don't want the ad, you can upgrade. This doesn't get shown to premium users, so it's a nice little upgrade for an ad-free experience. Typical hyperlinks like you would expect to see. And here we have a poll. So this is one of the interactive features. All of my posts in this newsletter have a poll. That's just a trivia version of the poll feature where we can see what do you think? So let's see, wildebeest. We'll see if that's right. I'm gonna have to log in again. Let's see. Should just work right away. So we make people log in before this. Hopefully that will work in the way I was going to say. There's a couple opportunities to see this. Always getting stuck because, again, like I said, I have like 10,000 emails I'm subscribed to, so I have ways of filtering it. There we go. So we have the login link being sent. I have it here. Why is this not pulling it out? There we go. So once you're logged in, you see this up here, but I can come into this post and go back down to the poll, click this, and it's going to show me I'm incorrect. The actual answer is a hippo. Bummer. I didn't know that. I can leave some feedback and then continue. It's going to take me back, and then we're here. So from the web version, you can see we have an embed from an Instagram post here. So it looks just like kind of the embeds you would see across the web. We support Twitter, we support Instagram, YouTube, Threads, Blue Sky, anybody, any social media network that's out there that supports these kind of native embeds, we have support for. And of course, we have comments and keep reading. And this is for the web experience specifically. When we look at this view, we can go to the preview and we can view the email version. So this is what it's going to look like on email. In this case, I have the sponsor. This is one of our ad network sponsors, which is why I was getting that error. You can see it's going to look slightly different because I have the email designed to look a little bit different, but that's by design. It's just email is a different medium than web. We have this ad from our ad network. Again, I hide that ad widget from people who are premium users. We have these polls, and then a referral program widget here, some recommendations. So these are just recommendations that are embedded into the email. Again, because this is an email, we know who that end user is. And so because of that, we can deploy things like the referral program where we can add the tracked links. Referrals, we already have that user's email. So it's a one-click subscribe. And then at the end of the thing, I have a satisfaction survey here that's going to collect feedback before our footer. So when we come in here, we wanted to build a new post that looks like this. I can either start from a new draft, or I can start from a template. The template is going to be saved based on previous content. So if I go in here, I can show you one of my previous templates. It just is going to give me a good place to start where I can just replace the content, replace the images, and I'm good to go. But for the purpose of today, I'm just going to start writing from a blank slate, and this is where we go. So I showed you the thumbnail. This is where you can add an image. This is what's going to show up on the website by default. This is what's going to show up in the social share links when you share this on social media and beyond. You can add content tags. So again, this is going to be in that archive, the way that you can basically filter and show different content based on different subjects and topics. Here is your authors. If you have multiple authors, you can add them here. If you have a guest author or contributor, you can add them also without actually having to invite them into your beehiiv account. And then, of course, once you set these up, you're ready to start writing. Before we jump into the actual writing portion, I also want to cover these settings. So if you click on this kind of control panel-like thing, it's going to take you to the newsletter design settings, which we'll cover in a few minutes. But this is going to be where you cover the look and feel of your newsletter. We purposely separate the look and feel in terms of the design from the actual writing process so that we basically allow you to really focus on one thing at a time. What we found from surveys and from customers and from using these platforms ourselves is that a lot of platforms, they have you do really the design and the content creation at the same time, which leads to a less efficient process. And so for us, the idea is you set up the design once. We have a kind of a mock-up here where you can see how everything looks. You set up the design one time, and then unless you're going to make like those tiny tweaks over time, obviously as you make refinements, but you set up the design once, and then you can just come here and write whatever you want. And then when you go to the preview, when you go to send, when you go to publish, that's where we merge the content that you've created with the actual design system that you have in place. And I see there's a bunch of comments here in the chat. Thank you so much, Tony, for handling those. So that's how you access these newsletter design features. If you want to save a post as a template, as I just mentioned, you hit the save button. We have these really cool version history features. So say you write a newsletter and then you realize you kind of went in the wrong direction and you want to backtrack. We actually save different versions of the newsletter, just like Google Docs, where you can go back and you can view previous versions, restore them if you want, so that nothing is lost. And then lastly, if you're working with a team, one of the really cool things that you can do is leave comments. So I'm going to just do here some text. Say I'm working with somebody and I want to, leave a note to be like, hey, so-and-so at Tony. If Tony was in here, he'd get the note, but I can say, hey, EJ, please update this content, with some content. So I hit that, and then it's not going to show up in this kind of feed of different comments. I can delete it. I can check it off when I'm done. The other person can check it off. They can respond to it and so forth. So From there, there's a bunch of different ways. You can click on that comments button and you can see the history. You can filter. So if you just want to see open items, you can do that. If you want to see only your comments, everyone's comments, etc. So really, really powerful collaboration features that, really make it easy to work collaboratively here in the editor. Lastly, we have this backlinks feature where you can view as you're going in here. Let's see, if I want to do something like, if I want to reference a previous post, I can just do these square brackets and it's going to show me my history of past posts. So say I want to reference this like past article that I did, I can publish that. And now it's going to show up in my backlinks, my backlinks thing here. And then if I have other articles that I reference this post, it's going to show those in this incoming links view. Obviously, there's nothing incoming because this is a draft. I haven't posted it yet, but in the future, you can do that. If you want to change like what this link looks like, you can change the title here. It's just going to change the copy. So this is an article. You can do that. So that's the functions of these buttons around here. And from that point, you're ready to get started writing. So within the editor itself, everything kind of revolves around this widget palette, so to speak. So by hitting the /, you get access to all of these different widgets. So kind of basics, headings, dynamic tags, and premium widgets. Basics are, they're all pretty self-explanatory. Subscriber break, for example, is going to put a break where users have to be subscribed to see below it. If you guys have any questions about what any of these mean, please drop them in the chat. I will leave them up for a few minutes, as we go through. But fairly straightforward and self-explanatory. Embeds, like I said, any of these types of embeds, you can just take a regular link and just embed it. It'll visualize it nicely. And so it's just not the URL. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, audio. Threads is on the way. We do have Threads as like a link that you can add to your publication. If you're writing more of like a scientific or like research-based newsletter, you can use footnotes. And then when we get down to these premium features, when you're using the ad network, if you want to deploy an advertisement, it's one click. It integrates with our ad reporting features and integrates with like the booking feature. You just hit one click and your ad is ready to go. We have some AI features that I'll demonstrate in a minute. Polls, we showed how those polls can be really, really valuable for engagement when people are reading. If you want to share some recommendations or the paid recommendations, we saw examples of those a few minutes ago. You can add a paywall, very similar to some other platforms where it's like if you have premium content, you only want users to be able to see a preview and then they have to pay to see the rest of it. One click, you're able to deploy that here. And then for anything that you can't do with the native widgets, we have this HTML snippet feature where you can put that in the body, and then you can put whatever custom code you want there. So if it's some sort of design element that is very, very specific to your newsletter, or if it's some sort of embed from a third-party tool that you want to put into the web post, you can do that with this HTML snippet. Got a question from Matthew. So this is I'm going to get to that. In order to put like a first name or any kind of content you're collecting, we manage that through the subscribers view. So under subscribers and then custom fields, you'll see these custom fields. And so you're going to take the name of the custom field. And then if we go back, all you're going to do is do a curly bracket, 2 open curly brackets, and then you're going to put the name of the custom field, and then you're going to do the 2 close curly brackets. So first name. And that's going to basically, you'll see the gray, meaning that it's kind of taken hold. If you want to have like a default value, so say you're going to invariably have some of that info for some people, but not for everyone, you're going to use a pipe, which is just the shift button and then the backslash. And you're going to put something like a default. So in this case, if I go here to the preview and so first of all, preview is up here. Once you have some content in, you can click the preview button. It's going to show you what it's going to look like on web, email, mobile, or desktop. So I come in here. I can see what it's going to look like for different types of users. So free users, premium users, or anonymous non-subscribers. If I come in here and start typing in like my email address that I signed up for the other day, I'll do this. You can actually see what it's going to look like for a specific user. So for most users, by default, it's going to say friend because that's the fallback. But if I choose a subscriber that I've collected that information for, it's actually going to replace it with that first name field. So that is there. So working through that. Yeah, beyond that, you're just going to kind of edit. You're going to drop whatever content you want in here. You can copy it over from Notion, from Google Docs. You can work right in here. Super flexible. Markdown support, correct formatting when you're copying and pasting from other places. The only thing I want to cover before we move on to that next step is like type in here is some text. There's kind of two elements here once you actually have content in the editor that are important to know. So for text-based content, when you highlight it, it's going to show this palette of different kind of modifications. So the typical bold, italic, underline, strike through. Highlight is pretty cool. You can make stuff, highlighted to really pop. If you want to add a link, if you want to make it a superscript, subscript, change it to a heading, turn it to a list of any kind, you can justify it. You can turn it into a quote. This is like the quote notation right here. If you're a developer writing about development topics, you can basically turn it into like a formatted code. This isn't going to execute, but it's going to basically format it so that people can see what that code is going to look like. It's not going to be rendered when you post to the web. And then lastly, two things last. One, if you do want to have text that kind of breaks the design system that you've set up, you can like selectively modify very, very specific types of text with these tuning settings. But I don't recommend doing your entire newsletter with this type of, these settings here. These should all really be set in your design studio. And then this is just really, it's like, okay, I want to make one word. This is like really important to the meaning or the context. I'm going to make this one word huge, but I don't want all the text huge, obviously. So you do some tuning there, change the color, etc. So we can reset that by hitting the reset all button. Lastly, our AI features. I told you I was going to cover those. So we believe that human written content's the best, that AI can't replace the human spirit. And so in this case, we have features that really augment and extend human creativity. So if you already have some content, you can highlight it and you can ask it to improve the writing. So you can have it shorten, lengthen, simplify, or change the tone of voice. If you want to, and you can give it these specific tones. If you want to translate it into a different language, we offer a few different languages you can translate. If you want to just do normal grammar, spelling revisions and stuff like that, you can do that. And then lastly, if you hit like writer's block and you're not really sure what to do, if you highlight a sentence or a passage, ask it to complete the sentence, it'll pick up where you left off and help you break through that writer's block. So yeah, it covers those features. As it comes to sending, when we're ready to get going and send it to our audience, we're gonna hit this next button, which is gonna take us. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah. So I saw the question about the thank you page. I'm going to cover that because we will get into that. That's kind of further down with the subscribe flow. So I mean, the short answer is it's super easy. You go into. I will exit here. I'll just jump into it now before we get into the sending settings. We will cover everything, and everything. We're just doing kind of the Tony flagged that there were some questions. So we're kind of going through the process of setting up your send and then going through sending and setting up settings. But just real quick, somebody asked about how you set up the thank you page. In here, the design settings under website builder, you go to settings and then sign up flow. So this is where you have the options that we went through in the beginning of the call to set up that recommendations page. You can turn it on and off. This obviously can't be turned on if you don't have recommendations. But at the end of this flow, you'll have the options to add a custom redirect. So that's where you can put a thank you page. You can create a thank you page in the website builder again under here where it goes to custom pages. You can create an internal page where you can create a thank you page. If you're interested in setting up a thank you page for tracking purposes, that's not the right way to do that. We have a ton of videos on how to do. We actually have a bunch of really sophisticated analytics and tracking that we don't cover in this call because it's fairly sophisticated. But if you're doing this for ads, do not do it with a thank you page. It's super inaccurate. We get questions all the time of people being like, hey, my ad tracking is completely wrong and inaccurate. What gives? And it turns out that they just set it up completely wrong and are using a thank you page, which is not the way to do, tracking in 2024. Maybe in 2004, but not in 2024. We have the digital capabilities to like literally validate, verify that a subscriber is real, that they haven't subscribed before, that they haven't hit the refresh page or refresh button and all of that. So if that's kind of the basis of your question, we can drop in a link to that tracking. If you just want to kind of have that user experience end up on a thank you page, then those are the steps you're going to take. A custom page and then set that custom page as your final destination in the subscribe flow. So going back to the post that we've set up, we're ready to get sending. We haven't really added any content here because this is just a demo. But once we're ready to start sending, we're going to hit this next button, which is going to take us to the audience view. So this is how we decide who's going to receive our message. Now, what's interesting is I've shown you the website that we offer. We've seen an example of the emails that we send. And this is kind of where some people kind of get tripped up a little bit. Beehiiv is a newsletter sending platform first, but of course, newsletters are very different than like just promotional emails in that there's a ton of really good reasons why you would want your newsletter content to live on the web. One, it's like you can share it way easier. You can share it with new audiences. You can share it on social, etc. And so because of that, from the very beginning, we had a web component to this platform. It was never just email only. And that's like one of the key differences between a newsletter and just kind of generic general emails. And so as the platform has evolved, our web offering is incredibly robust and very powerful. We have a ton of people who are actually using the platform just as a blog because the site is super optimized for search engines. It's the most optimized out of the box of any platform out there, better than Wix, better than Squarespace, better than WordPress. I've worked in agencies my entire career before this. And so I was like the architect and designer of all of these SEO features. And there is not a platform out there that has better SEO out of the box. And so a lot of people like to use these sites because they get picked up by Google and they start getting organic traffic relatively easily if they know what they're doing in terms of SEO. But otherwise, you can also share posts that you've published to LinkedIn, to Twitter, to Instagram, to wherever. And it just offers another way for users to come and get exposure to your content and end up subscribing. So the website is really, really critical, very important, very useful. But of course, it's not everything. But that's why we offer it. And so from here, you can say, okay, I want to send this and show this to all of the web audience. You can also say, okay, I only want to show it to users on the web who are paid. In this case, it's still going to publish to the web. It's going to show up on your archive, but the only people who are going to be able to read it are your paid users. And then we offer support for multiple different tiers. So that's what you're seeing here in terms of different settings. If you have like a gold tier, silver tier, bronze tier, you can have that level of control. If you don't want to show it on the web at all, you're just going to uncheck both of those. And then as for the email audience, you can send to all of your free subscribers, all of your paid subscribers. You have the same tuning kind of functionality there with the addition of this third set where you can choose to include or exclude specific segments. And so we'll get into actually how segments work, but segments are basically just like groups of users within your list. We have a tool that says, okay, show me all users who are subscribed versus unsubscribed. Show me all users who came from a specific channel, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or whatever. I have some segments set up to show me the Instagram users that came from my ads. So in this case, if I include them in the segment, it's only going to send to the users who came in who are part of this segment. Alternatively, maybe I want to send to all subscribers, but I want to exclude a certain segment. I can do that by coming in here and selecting exclude. So now it's going to send to everyone except for the people who are in this segment. So whether you want to send to a small group, you want to send to your entire list, you want to send to your paid subscribers, you want to show on web, you want to only show on web to paid subscribers, totally flexible. It's just a matter of the checkbox that you're selecting here. Next, because we have an email option selected, you can set your options for your subject line and preview text. By default, these are going to pull in from the title and subtitle of your post. Here you can decide whether you want to show the social links in your email. Some people do, some people don't. It's up to your aesthetic and your design. You can also show likes and comments. So if I just do a quick preview of the email, this is going to be those social links, and this is going to be the likes and comments. If users click any of these, if they click this, it's going to share the post to social. That requires that you have a web version being published as well, because of course you can't share the email itself through social. And then these buttons are going to take users to the website where it's going to add a like to the post, or it's going to take them to the comment section where they can add a comment. For web, similarly, we talked about those SEO features. You can change the slug, as we call it. It's the URL up here. You can decide if you want to add pop-ups or require users to subscribe before reading. So pop-up is a pop-up. Gating is requiring users to subscribe before they can actually see the content. And you can decide whether you want to have comments on, off, or paid users only. You can show, disable, have it locked. No, people can't add new ones, but they can see the old ones, etc. And then here we get into those kind of SEO settings. If you want to modify the way that your sharing link is going to look across Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Lastly, if you want to, post this content, but you want to be able to share the link, for example, and share it on social, share it with specific people, but you don't want it to show up in that main archive, you can hide the post from the feed. And if you do that, it's no longer going to show up on this page. By default, all of the web posts show up in this section. So if you don't want it to show up, you can hit that hide button. From there, and real quick before we move on, I missed this. We offer very, very powerful A/B testing features for the email side of things. So if you want to A/B test your subject line, you can check this button and you can see, you add various subject lines. I have to enter one before I can add the next one, but you can A, B, C, D, up to 4 options. You can test. We'll run the test for as long as you choose, and then you set the sample size here. After this time period, whichever size is the winner, if there's a statistically valid winner, we'll send that one. If there's no statistically valid winner, we will send the one that has the highest open rate at the time of the test's conclusion. Finally, we get to the stage where we're ready to review the send. This is where we recommend that you use these settings to either send a copy of the draft to somebody who might want to review it. You can send a test version to yourself. You can send a test version to anyone else. You can also simulate the email so that it uses real data from a subscriber, so you can make sure that none of your personalization, for example, is broken. So moving on, about halfway through the session, we're going to move on to the settings that are within here. I see a question before we get to settings is how you access support. So during your free trial, you'll have access to our live support that can be found here under this help button. You can just click this create a ticket button and it will create the ticket. Otherwise, we have our product updates, our blog, webinars, our newsletter course, our glossary, and I don't know that we have our tutorials. These are our YouTube tutorials and more knowledge base, etc. So this is where you're going to kind of go everywhere you need to either get help, get support, upskill, etc. Moving to our settings. There's a little bit of background here. So workspace settings means, everybody who creates an account, you have a workspace and that workspace owns one newsletter to start. And if you want to create multiple newsletters, that workspace owns those multiple newsletters. So it's almost like just one level up from the publication. And so in this case, if you're, for example, a business who is launching a newsletter, so maybe it's called Business A is launching newsletter B, your workspace setting, you would put your company name here, your address, and then this is going to show you all the publications that this workspace controls. You can delete if you'd like. This is where you're going to add team members. So we have a bunch of different granularities. So you can add them either to the workspace or a publication. Set the member access role to admin, member, or contributor. Contributor is going to have the least amount of permissions. Admin is going to have full permission. Once you send that invite, you can track the status of that invite from this screen. When it's time to upgrade, you're going to come to this billing and plan page. You'll see a slightly different view, but it'll have the option to change your plan. It'll have a modal that pops up. You can select based on your number of subscribers and based on the features that you want, which plan is right for you. And then you'll move to checkout. If you ever need to update your billing information, you can do so right here. Lastly, if you're a little bit more sophisticated and using our API, whether it's through Zapier, Make, or you're developing something on your own, your API keys are going to live right here. You're going to create a new API key. It's going to only be visible once. So make sure you copy it and add it to whatever tool you want right away. That's just a best practice to not have it be visible more than once, but we'll do a demo. It'll show the API key. I guess maybe that shouldn't, because now somebody could just watch this and access this, but you didn't see all the different characters there. And then you have your publication ID, which is also required for most of the API connections. If you're a developer, you will know what I'm talking about here. And if you're not, then don't worry about it. Come back if you need it. From there, we get to the actual publication settings. So this is where you're going to name your publication. This will be set by default from the information you set on onboarding. You can add your description. You can add a logo. This is going to be the default thumbnail. So if you don't add a thumbnail to a post, this default is what's going to show up. We recommend setting publication tags so that we know what your newsletter is about. This is really helpful for things like recommendations, boosts, as well as our ad network. You'll get more opportunities the more accurate and the more specific these tags are. You can set the default language. So there's a bunch of places in which we deploy default text to your subscribers. And this is just things like, cancel buttons, login buttons, like click here, buttons, stuff like that. You choose your default language from these, I think it's 7 options. Set your time zone, etc. Content access. If you're running something like a PTA newsletter for a school or investor updates, you may not want everybody to be able to see or everybody to subscribe. So you can turn on private publications to make that content only accessible to people who are subscribed. And by default, nobody can ask to subscribe to that private publication. If you want to allow people to apply to subscribe, you can check this require subscriber approval button, and that will add the sign up button to your private publication, they will not get that content or get access to that content until you manually approve them. So lastly, on our Max plan, if you want to remove like the buttons that say like powered by beehiiv, you can do that on our Max plan by checking here. From here, if you are a marketer and you pay attention to UTM parameters, by default on the web, all of your links are going to be pre-tagged with UTM source, medium, and campaign. And we explain what those default tags are here. If for some reason you wanted to turn that off, I can't imagine why. There's literally no downside to having it turned on. But if you did want to turn it off, you can check this button here. And if you want to set your own custom values, you can like that. There's going to be some settings around defaults around your newsletter. So with this, the sender name is what's going to show up in the inbox. So this is what you're going to look like in, iMessage or Apple Mail, whatever it's called, Apple Mail or Gmail. If people hit the reply button, by default, this is going to be the email that you signed up with. But if you hit the reply button, if you want to make that a custom email, you can set that right there. Footer details by default are going to pull from the publication name and the address that you set on the account. But if there's some reason to make these more specific, you can do that. And then we have a couple preset emails that are going to be deployed on your behalf. So by default, every account, regardless of whether they're on the paid or the free plan, gets a welcome email. This is an autoresponder that gets sent when somebody subscribes to your newsletter. It's off by default, but if you want to turn it on, you can. To turn it on, you first have to configure the email here. Once you do, you can turn it on, and that's just going to be what users send when they subscribe. I don't have this one configured because I do the welcome email through our automations feature, which is another way to do it. But we just have this set up so that everybody has the ability to have that autoresponder. Lastly, double opt-in is a feature where when somebody subscribes, you can require them to give active consent, which means clicking a button that says, yes, I want to subscribe to this newsletter before they're actually going to be active on your list. If they are in kind of that in-between state, they're going to be set to pending, and they will not be sent to your list when you send a list to all of your subscribers. So one way to keep your list super clean and engaged, because you know that they found the email, they opened it, they clicked the button to actively consent. You're generally going to have higher open rates and better deliverability, but you're going to have slower growth because usually only about 80% of people follow through and confirm their subscription. Lastly, Smart Nudge. If you do use the opt-in, the Smart Nudge feature will send them a follow-up 48 hours after that initial opt-in email is sent, just saying, hey, we sent you an opt-in email 48 hours ago. Do you want to subscribe to this newsletter, more or less? If you're coming from another platform, if you're our friend from MailChimp, you can come in here and import content from MailChimp, following the instructions on the screen. If you want to import your subscribers from another platform, we also make it very, very easy. You're going to export the CSV from whatever platform you're coming from, import it through this view, and then when you go through that import, you'll have the opportunity to either create a set of basic custom fields that pull over the data from your previous platform, and then you'll have the opportunity to map that data so that nothing gets lost in the transition. If you ever want to leave, we don't hold you hostage. You can take all of your data with you, whether it's subscriber data. We have the quick one if it's just to, just have a quick list that you want to share with someone. Full version has all of the data. And then if you want to ever take your posts and take them with you, we export that in a compatible format that is an open format. Domains, pretty important part. Typically, if you want to create like a custom domain for this one, for example, I have Vacation Voyeur set up as the custom domain. I'm not going to go through the ins and outs of this. We have a bunch of documentation on how to set this up that Tony can drop in the chat. But more or less, the short of it is when you're ready to set up a custom domain, you'll follow the instructions on the screen. You'll set what you want the custom domain to be. And then we actually have a partner called Entry that we work with that will, once you click to verify your login with something like GoDaddy or Squarespace, it'll actually set up all of the different DNS settings that you need to be successful for you. There's no dealing with like going in and setting up text records and setting up the A records and setting up the CNAME records, anything like that. We all do that automatically. Simplifies the process tremendously. Makes it really, really self-explanatory. Lastly, again, if you're a developer and you're interested in integrating beehiiv across different platforms, webhooks are another way you can do that. So webhooks are going to send data when different events happen. We have a bunch of different events that are built into the platform that you can trigger webhooks based on. When you start using our paid features, you'll have the ability to edit these Stripe payment accounts. So this is just how money is coming in and out of your account through Stripe in order to pay for things like boosts and to receive money from things like boosts or ad network payouts. Lastly, we have the ability to deploy an RSS feed directly from your site. So in this case, if you turn this feature on, mine's turned on, you'll have this link that you can share with subscribers. They can then add this to an RSS tool. If you want to bring in content from an external RSS feed and use it to populate content within the editor for newsletters, that's a feature of our Max plan, and you can do that by adding the external RSS feed here. A lot of news organizations do this. So if you're publishing news on your main website and you want to pull that news kind of feed into the email, it makes it really, really easy to do so with this feature. So from here, we've gone through posts, we've gone through the settings. Before we move on to features, we're going to quickly run through the design stuff here. I'm not going to go into all the specifics, but we show you the settings that are currently applied in this preview view. All of these different elements correspond with an item over here on this menu list. So from this top, you have the email header, which is going to correspond to the email header section here. You have your header text, which is this header text with all of the different settings. You have your email footer, which is designed down here. Buttons. You have body text, which is all of this stuff. Background, which is in this case this section and this section. Inner background and outer background. These are the content breaks, images. We have a couple different types of lists. So ordered lists with numbers or unordered lists with dots. And then block quote styles. So this is the first block quote style, second block quote style, third block quote style. This is what embeds are going to look like if it's not like a custom embed from a social media network. If it's just a regular link, you can modify what that's going to look like in the embed section. And then the tables section, if you want to pull in data from like a spreadsheet or whatever, you can look. And this will be how your tables look when you pull them in. The only thing to call out here in email header, you can set if you want your email to have your logo at the top every time, you can set that here. You can add a link. You can set the width here. If you are a developer and you want to go a little bit more custom, you can leverage this custom CSS field to modify the CSS of all of the different HTML elements within the email to make it really, really bespoke. And then in the email footer section, if you go down here to this custom content and click the button, it'll take you to an editor that's very similar to the other editors we've seen throughout this process that will allow you to make a fully custom footer, with whatever you want inside of it. It's important to note here that that footer is going to be deployed across every email you send. So it should not be specific content to a specific flow or a specific type of email. This is just going to be universal content for every email that goes out. And that really covers the high level stuff for the builder. We have a bunch of resources on YouTube around how to use the specific features and how to go in. I will say that in the last, when we first started the company, when I first started, there was probably 95% of use cases we could replicate. Still a pretty high number, but there were, occasions where people would come to us and say, hey, I have a really, really specific custom newsletter template that I have in mind. And, in that very, very early stage, there was a couple times, I think I remember maybe 24 times that I had to say, okay, it's a little bit too complicated. And what those occurrences did for us was to say, okay, cool, we need to build additional features to support more complex, designs. And so we've done that over the subsequent, 2.5 years. And I don't think I've come across any design in the last year and a half that we can't replicate one-to-one, one way or another. There's ways to do it, which, some people say, hey, I have this HTML template that I've designed and I want to drop it in here. We don't support raw HTML because typically it's either designed in a way that's not optimized for email, and so you're going to suffer from deliverability. The other thing is it actually reduces the engagement potential of your newsletter because our widgets and whatnot can't be accessed by typical HTML. And so we spend a ton of time, we spend a ton of resources on making sure that the sending infrastructure is super streamlined and refined. And so if you have any questions around how to implement a template, please reach out to us. I guarantee you it can be implemented. And it's just a matter of just knowing which features and which design elements to modify. So from there, we'll start jumping into some of our features with the last third of this call. Starting from, actually, before we start doing that, are there any questions that I can answer? I like to stop periodically to take some questions. Has this been helpful? Has this been a waste of time so far? I would love to hear in the chat any questions that you have before we go into the ins and outs of some of the more of the more advanced growth features, the audience building features, and so forth. I'm going to give 30 seconds for the chat. I think it's been helpful, learn a lot more than I knew already. Cool. Love to hear that. That's what we aim for here. But yeah, any other questions? Otherwise, we will move on. Waiting for growth strategies. Perfect. Growth strategies, we're not going to cover specific strategies today in this call. That's actually a topic we cover extensively with other webinars. Tony can actually drop a link to our webinar kind of archive where literally like 5 times a week we're doing calls that talk about different strategies, SEO, paid, organic, design, all of these different strategies that contribute to growth. As I said at the beginning, this is more specifically around like getting started and kind of those general things, but I can also offer tips at the end again for kind of high level strategies around the approaches you might take. And yes, the recording will be provided. It's going to be available at that same link, Bev, that Tony just shared on my behalf, the blog.beehiiv.com/t/webinars. That's where all of the past ones are. If you want to view ones before this one's done, you can view ones that we've done in prior sessions. We do these weekly. So we do like 5 a week. Like Ad Network does one, our partner team does one. I usually do 2 or 3. We're constantly publishing new content for these videos. So jumping into the first tab, we have subscribers, segments, automations, polls, surveys, and subscribe forms. So the subscriber view is going to be how you can view individual subscribers. So by default, you'll see their status, any tags that you've added, tiers that, whether they're free or premium, when they subscribed, and how they came into your newsletter. If I click into this user, which is just me, you'll see a bunch of stuff here. So all-time metrics, you'll see, quick links, like this is going to be different links to different parts of their specific stuff. So if you want to view them in Stripe, if you want to send them the link where they can manage their account, etc. Acquisition details, this is important if you're kind of doing more heavy growth and marketing stuff. You can see how they discovered your site, where they came from, where they subscribed, etc. Custom fields, so we've talked a bit about custom fields already. So gender, dream destination, phone number, and first name. These are what the data I've collected on this user. Tags are just a different way to categorize users. So tags and segments are slightly different. And and content tag. Sorry, there's 3 different things. There's like tags, and we'll get into this in a minute. But tags are just like ways to group similar audiences. And over here, you can see in the subscriber overview the different emails and communications they've received. So whether it's a post, whether it's an automation, polls they've participated in, referrals that they've made, other emails. So generally, there's like just a kind of a bucket of like kind of housekeeping emails. You can see the performance of those, any events that they fired. So we do some event tracking and their billing. From here, if we go back to subscribers and we click on custom fields, this is going to be that data that is specific to a user. So like a first name, or it could be someplace that they work, or a gender. It's going to be details about the individual person. Tags are going to be details about a group of people. So I might have my, companies are kind of a tough one because it could apply as both. If I wanted to have a group of people who are from the same company, I might have that be a tag. But it's like, if you say like, okay, I want to tag a group of people who have made a purchase, you might have the individual purchase on the user record, or like a detail about that, tied to a specific user. But like the fact that they've made a purchase is going to make them part of this group of purchasers, and that way might be what you use the tag for. Preferences, this is going to be used a little bit more of an advanced tactic if you're running a newsletter where maybe you're sending daily and you want to give people the opportunity to back off and only receive an email once a week, or maybe 3 times a week. Essentially, you want to give them preferences that they can set that are going to modify how you interact with them. You can set up a preference center here. Tony, if you could drop a link to that. That's typically not so much like a beginner tactic, but we do offer that functionality. Moving on to segments, this is one of the most important parts of the entire platform. So understanding how you can create segments of users is going to get you really, really far. First, you're going to set up a name. There's 3 different types. So manual would be, you can create a segment from a list upload. You can create a static segment, which is going to be at a certain point in time. And the most common one is going to be this dynamic version. From here, you're going to view this view where you can set the criteria. So let's say I want to view, like there's just almost infinite ways in which you can create segments, but the first step is going to be create kind of where do you want the data to come from? Do you want it to be an attribute, some way that they've engaged with your newsletter, something about their email or the emails that they've received, something about automations, behavior, all of this sort of stuff. You can pick from any of these. Do attributes because it's kind of the most easy conceptually. So attributes, from that attribute list, you're going to have a ton of options. So it can be their email, whether they're subscribed, what tier they're on, free or premium, or one of the premium tiers, when they signed up, when they unsubscribed, any custom fields that they're associated with, et cetera. Like literally any of these can be filters. Let's say we're just doing it very simply based on custom field. You can then choose the custom field. First name, exists. So I want to show the people who I have a custom name, a first name for. And then maybe I want to add another attribute. I can say, and I want to see who's also subscribed. So active means subscribed, inactive means unsubscribed. So this is going to give me a list of anybody who's provided their first name and is subscribed, because I've chosen these criteria and I've chosen this and criteria. If I wanted to make a group of like one or more criteria and have it be or, I can use that using this grouping function down here. I can also change it up here. There's like a entire lesson we've done on this that maybe Tony can share, but literally any way that you want to view your audience and slice and dice your audience, you can do so with segmentation, which then powers some of the analytics, and it also powers the ways that you can include and exclude people from sends that you've made. Both are really, really powerful elements. And so in this case, within just analytics, I can see this is how my paid ads performs in terms of unsubscribe rate, click-through rate, open rate, etc. Really, really good. I set this up to make sure that the people I'm paying to acquire are not junk. From there, if you guys want more info there, Tony is providing resources. Moving to automations, this is where I mentioned that I typically do like my welcome series based on an automation, but we'll just create a new one real quick just to show you how this works. So we'll do new test. This is a demo. So once you set this automation up, you're going to view the screen where you have this kind of canvas where you can create whatever experience that you want. So in this case, we start by adding a trigger. If you want to have it be when somebody subscribes, you're going to choose signed up. Otherwise, we have a bunch of these other triggers, like one of the most flexible, infinitely scalable features that we have, because not only can you set automations to get kicked off based on these built-in triggers, you can also, if you're kind of more development and minded, or you're working across a different stack of different tech tools, you can also add users to the automations via API or something like a webhook. So by default, signed up is when they subscribe, when they submit an email. So like if they've resubmitted their email more than once. So if you're doing something like a lead magnet, if they submit a survey, if they submit a poll response, if they refer a certain number of users, if they are entering or exiting a specific segment, if they upgrade or downgrade from a premium subscription or paid subscription plan. And then of course, if you want to add them by API, if you just want to have a manual, you can actually add people manually to a segment. Or if they're detected as being unengaged, you can add them to an automation. So all of these super powerful. Once you choose your trigger, let's just say it's going to be a welcome series, we can set that up. You can also add the same criteria that we use for segments to automations in this way. So like say you want to send automations to a specific user, but only if they meet certain conditions, you can do that as well. Again, infinitely flexible, infinitely scalable, super powerful. Once we're ready, we're going to hit that activate button. So it's going to start triggering when users take that action. The next step is going to be to add another one of these events. So the trigger just is to say when somebody does this, then something's going to happen. Then we add what actually happens. So we can send an email by doing that. So this would basically be the most simple version of a welcome series. Somebody signs up and then you send them an email. What's valuable here though, is you can actually set, additional stuff. You can say a time delay. So send them the first email immediately, but then we're going to set a time delay for, 1 day. And then after that 1 day passes, we're going to actually send them another email. And then from there, we can do a true false, branch. We can say, okay, after they've received these 2 emails, basically set these conditions. These are going to be the same kind of segment conditions. So we can say, if they've never opened one of these emails, send them down one path. If they've opened one of these emails, send them down another path, and so forth. So really, really difficult to overstate how powerful this tool is. Really, your imagination is the limit with how far and how useful this can be. And specifically users who are coming from places like ConvertKit or other tools that are kind of more marketing automation centric, this is where you're probably going to spend a lot of time, because this is where we kind of have all that power behind the scenes. From there, polls, I've already showed you how these work at the beginning of the call, but if we set up like a satisfaction survey, something like that, we can see the results of these polls. We can see where they're deployed and the stats of those posts. Pretty straightforward. This is a survey style or a survey style poll. We also have the trivia style polls that I mentioned before. So I did like was it this one? Nope. There's the one where I asked about like the most dangerous animal in Africa. Safari. Yeah. So hippo, wildebeest, etc. This is not tracking the wildebeest because the one that I signed in was the one I already had responded to in the same email. But you can see that most people got this one right, and and so forth. That data can be exported. For example, if you want to take these results, let's say you have a much more robust survey and you want to share those on social. We have this like Wordle style shareability, so you can come in here and you can just take those results and share them and turn that into unique social content. It's one of the biggest uses of polls. Otherwise, benefits of polls include users clicking on those poll results is going to get you better placement in the inbox because it shows engagement. You can use them for understanding what type of content to build. So you can say, what would you like to hear about more in this newsletter? And users will say, you can give them some options and, pick from those options and so forth. One of the very, very most powerful features that we offer. Welcome surveys are our form features. So you can come in here and from this form builder, it's going to take a second because it's a little bit, I'll come back to this in a second, but our form builder allows you to, is what we saw at the beginning of the call where we had these options, what's your name, what's your gender, what's your dream vacation. You can basically see the results of those form questions there. The builder experience, there we go, is very similar to the automations experience. So you're going to choose your question, you're going to select the custom field that the answer should be assigned to, and then you're going to choose the type of data. So it can be a free form, it can be a question, it can be text, it can be free form text, which is just more text, it can be multiple choice, it can be single answer, drop down. There's a bunch of different options here, but this is how you can build this form experience that then can influence not only your user data that you're collecting, but also can be used to trigger other parts and other actions from like automations and whatnot. These don't have to be used when you subscribe. These can be used in any case. It just so happens that the example that I set at the beginning used the subscribe form. If you do want to set this up on the subscribe survey, there's an option from this menu to enable as subscribe survey. Now it's going to be disabled. We'll enable it again. But the other use case, as you saw here, is the unsubscribe survey. So if you want to create one that is only shown to users when they unsubscribe to understand why somebody might unsubscribe, you can use surveys for the same thing. In any case, if you don't set it for either one, or even if you do, you can copy the URL and you can share this anywhere and users will be able to answer it. So if you send this just out in the wild, they're going to be required to submit their email first. This is like a super powerful growth feature. Say, hey, take this survey and I'll send you the results, and you post that on social. Users will have to enter their email in order to respond, but then they're going to be subscribed to your newsletter and you're going to have the results for that. So a very, very powerful way to collect some user information. From there, we have subscribe forms. So this is going to be valuable if you're working on a third-party site. You want to embed, your newsletter on a WordPress site or something like that. You can use these different options to just take these forms and just drop them in. Very, very low lift, low expertise needed in terms of code. It's just a copy and paste. Moving to growth features, we have our referral program where you can set up specific milestones that users will receive a gift if they hit that milestone. So I have one for 1, 3, 10, and 20 referrals set up. This means that if somebody is at 0 referrals in the newsletter, says you're at 0 referrals, you're 1 away from receiving, if you refer 1 person, you get a year of insider access. If you have 1, it says you have 1 referral, you are 2 away from receiving this. I just have this set up so that it's the same image for all of them, and it rotates through each of the different rewards with some text, a little bit of a pro tip there, but we make it very, very easy to set up this type of referral and fulfillment system so that you can incentivize organic growth, by rewarding your users with actual, swag that may encourage them to join or to share. We've talked about recommendations a bunch. This is the interface for setting that up. You'll come in here, add a recommendation. You can use content tags. You can use names, to search. Basically, once you find somebody to share, whether it's somebody or you want to do some discovery, add them as a recommendation. You'll be able to see the number of users you've sent to them. And if you set up like kind of reciprocal, you can see how many they've sent to you. So in this case, Own the Watch is a friend of mine. I've sent him, unfortunately, 0, but he sent me 4. But this is the organic version of what we showed at the beginning of the call. From here, Magic Links is a way to just subscribe users with 1 click. This is mostly useful if you're doing external collaborations outside of beehiiv. It almost extends like the recommendations feature across 14 different other platforms outside of beehiiv. So if you're working with somebody who runs a newsletter on any of these platforms, you can basically just grab this link, and then if you want to add UTM parameters, you can, but you just grab this link. If they drop this into their email, when the email gets sent, it's going to replace this snippet with the recipient's email, which allows us to do a one-click subscription where if that recipient clicks it, it's going to take them to a screen that says, hey, thanks for signing up. Very, very powerful, low lift. There's no friction of like having to re-enter their email and whatnot. Lastly, boosts is one of the ways which you can grow your newsletter. Simplest way to explain this is like, imagine if you're running Facebook ads and say you spend $100 on Facebook and you only drive one subscription from that. Zuck is going to be like, so, too bad, so sad. I took your $100. I'm not giving you anything else. For us, we thought that's kind of messed up. And so we built this marketplace where you can go and you can say, I'm willing to pay $2 per subscriber. This goes out to the marketplace, and users who want to make that money will say, perfect, I agree to that deal. And they will then refer your newsletter to their subscribers. So we saw how this looked in the front end from the monetization side. But the cool part is that with this tool, I don't know what happened. Did I just get rid of my screen? Oh, I brought it down here. The cool part is with this feature, you only pay when the user is actually like engaged in and opening your email and engaging with your email. And so if a user, for example, they sign up and then they never open a single email, that's like dead space on your newsletter. You don't pay for that subscriber. We refund you that money. It does sit in escrow until the verification is done, but you get that money back. So essentially, within the Facebook example, it's as if you spent $100 on Facebook and then Zuck were to give you back that $98 that didn't convert. So one of the most powerful growth features across the internet, point blank, if you are choosing to grow your newsletter with any kind of paid budget. From there, we move to the monetization features. I'll cover those. Yeah, we can cover those in a second. I'm going to move to the analytics features first before I go into those last monetization features because we're getting to the end. 2 places to look at analytics. Sorry about that switch. Sorry about the switch again. There we go. So you can view analytics about your content here from the actual post view. You can see recipients, open rate, click-through rate, etc. So we certainly don't hide all of the analytics unless you're on a paid plan. You can see a ton about your engagement. But for users who are invested in their newsletter and who choose to continue on a paid plan after their trial, we have this very, very powerful, we call it 3D analytics. It's our kind of in-depth deep dive of data. So show you an overview of acquisition sources. And I'm just going to extend this actually to all time because I haven't been super active with this the last 2 years. Let's see, it might take a second to load, but you can see basically my performance here, but you can see where users are coming from, because I tagged all of these with UTM parameters when I ran my ads. You can see the different channels, kind of the rate at which people have signed up, number of posts sent to them, number of emails delivered, unique opens, etc. We go to performance. You can see open rate. You can see that breakdown of who's opening, click-through rate, et cetera, where they're opening and engaging from. Another view to see just by the actual acquisition source, performance, and so forth, and then cohort analysis of engaged users. This doesn't have a ton here because I haven't been growing this super long, but if you're much more engaged, this will show kind of like that waterfall view that shows the drop off of like how long users stay engaged with your newsletter. That's just the first report. We also have reports around posts as well as clicks. So post report's going to basically give you the same in-depth view of data around specifically your posts. So it takes a second to load, but number delivered, open, unique clicks, where those clicks happened, where that engagement happened. Again, we'll do like past 2 years, and this will all change a bit. You can see all time stuff, and then your top posts. This is going to show that data around specific posts. It's got to go back in the archive a bit, but yeah, you can see that. Lastly, click report. This is just going to show you what links have gotten clicked on, where those URLs went. This is useful if you're doing some sort of promotion, ads, ad deals and whatnot. You can see exactly what users are engaging with. Let's see, previous 2 years. Oh, it's coming up to current year. There we go. So this is going to show you kind of, most people clicked on the upgrade button, from there, Instagram and so forth. So moving into the home stretch, we want to talk about these monetization features. The first is our ad network. You saw some examples in when I ran through of some of the ads that I've run. These are 3 of the opportunities that I've accepted. Unfortunately, I didn't get any clicks specifically. I just have so few users. Usually the click-through rates kind of in that single digit range. And when I started sending these, I didn't really reach that level of significance where people are going to start clicking ads, but they may have. And if they had, I would make some money from them. But by placing an ad, we handle all of the reporting back to the advertisers. We handle all the payment. You don't have to chase down payment. Happens every month automatically. You get to choose when an ad opportunity is available to you. You can choose from a couple different versions, the one that best fits the style and aesthetic and flow of your newsletter. You can also choose when you want to run it from a range of dates. And then once it's there, I showed you at the beginning of the call, just one click, you can place it. No need for an ad team. No need for, chasing down vendors or wrangling numbers or worrying about payments or whatnot. So we have 2 different models. We have a CPM model, which is cost per impression. So it's going to get you paid based on the number of viewers of an ad. And we also have ads that run on a CPC basis, which is cost per click, which is basically you get paid a much higher rate, but on the specific, only on actual clicks. And so various ad opportunities will have kind of a mix of those different options. From here, we have Boost. This is the other side of the market. So I'll just show you the offers view. So these are real offers that are live right now. You can see some of these. This person's paying $2 per subscriber. This one's paying $2.40 if we wanted to select a different category. So I haven't done this before, so I'm hoping that there's some good coverage here. We'll go out on a limb. Let's see if there's any fashion ones. There's 2 fashion ones. So if you're in the fashion space, 80 cents per subscriber, $1.20 per subscriber. If you are in the art space, let's see if there's any art ones. But yeah, some creativity ones, marketing and whatnot. You can see there's tons of opportunities here for you to make money from recommending stuff. So it's not just kind of those big categories of like business AI, crypto, those. There's tons of variability in here depending on your newsletter. These people are willing to pay right away. We actually had a big that came out today. Check out our product updates at product.beehiiv.com to learn more about some of the criteria. I think most of that criteria is more visible on the grow side of the market, but essentially you'll submit your application, why you think it's a good fit for your newsletter, and then the people who are willing to pay review those applications. And if you're accepted, then your boost will start showing, in the sign up screen that we reviewed at the beginning of the call. Lastly, paid subscriptions, super powerful way for you to monetize your newsletter. Basically you can set that price. We went through the actual screen, but we make it very easy to set up your different offers here. We compete in this space with companies like Memberful and Patreon and essentially have more or less matching features with both of those. And so we have some users who just run communities through our paid feature, and they use our API to basically manage that program with other tools. Or you can use the newsletter paid subscription feature to basically run a paid newsletter, everything in between. And those paid features are certainly going to expand in the new year. What you can expect in 2025 and beyond is support for things like courses, support for things like coaching calls, digital products, and I think there's one more that I'm missing, but like way more. Basically, when we launch this new Dream Builder tool, it's this website, building tool, we plan to expand the number of types of products and services that are accessible through this storefront type of concept. And so very, very excited for that. It kind of expands the capabilities of what you may want to offer from a paid perspective. And that will be coming again sometime in the very, very beginning of the new year, January. Mid-January is right now what it's looking like. We're in the final stages of QA and beta testing. With that being said, that covers all of the content that I typically go over. I would love to spend some time. We've got a couple minutes left. I'll go a little bit over because I know that we got started a few minutes late. Actually, I may have a call I have to jump to. I do have a call I have to jump to in 2 minutes. What I can do is that if you guys have questions, drop them and we will be sure to answer them in the actual kind of Q&A, like in the Q&A section of the post that we drop. And yeah, the last thing I'll say is while we're waiting for any questions to be dropped in the chat that we can address then, if this was helpful, I can't more highly recommend our Hiiv community. So we have a Slack community that is more than 3,000 strong of active paying beehiiv users. These are people who are currently actively building and growing their newsletters. It's an incredibly valuable place to, get some camaraderie, to learn from. we have a bunch of different channels: cross promotions, design teardowns, email 101, growth, how to, in terms of how to use beehiiv, if there's questions, introductions, different cross collaboration opportunities, feedback on newsletters, and so much more. It's one of the most valuable places to be if you're serious about being a newsletter publisher. So once your trial is up, I highly recommend joining one of the paid plans and continuing the experience, and get access to the hiiv that way. We're at just about 20 or 3250 in terms of the current community. So it's literally thousands of people, dozens to hundreds of posts a day. And not just that, at the end of your trial, we do offer live support for our paying customers. It's a way that we're able to make sure that support is quick and super high quality. And so, if you do decide to continue on the free plan, we have a huge breadth of resources that should answer any question that you may have. But, definitely recommend taking advantage of the support during the trial so you can experience the quality there and get to know some of the people that, are doing the success on that side. With that being said, I want to give a big thanks to Tony, who's been managing the chat masterfully. He's the eye in the sky. He's been behind the scenes, Wizard of Oz style, pulling the strings, so to speak, of this webinar. So, but not in any kind of scary way, in a good way. He has been amazing. So thank you so much for taking your time, Tony. And I'll wrap up by saying thank you, whether you're listening to this recording or you're on the other side of the screen right now, 2 inches away from my fingertips. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to be able to share this with you. I know I talked a lot, and you're probably tired of hearing my voice now, but it's really a privilege to be able to speak with so many of you for so long. And we're really, really blessed to have you be using the platform. Truly mean it. I don't know what else to say, but thank you so much for coming in and joining us. And if you have any questions, my email is ej@beehiiv.com. Happy to get you the help that you need. You obviously have the support channels. Follow us on socials. Follow me on socials, EJ_beehiiv on Twitter, and Edward White on LinkedIn if you're interested. Otherwise, have a blessed Friday. I hope you have a great, safe weekend. And in other words, we'll see you soon. Have a great time.